Gravity is breaking. The oceans are sliding sideways. And somewhere out past what used to be the horizon, the atmosphere itself is leaking into space. On the plus side, every flat earther on the planet just became the smartest person alive. Too bad nobody's around to give them the trophy because breathing is now a competitive sport. This is what if. And here's what would happen if Earth suddenly went flat. Right now, Earth is a near-perfect sphere, slightly squashed at the poles. And that shape isn't an accident. It's the result of billions of years of gravity pulling every single atom of rock and metal as close to the center as physically possible. So if Earth instantly flattened into a disk, same mass, same atmosphere, same oceans, just squished into a pancake, you wouldn't be looking at a stable new world. You'd be looking at a planet actively trying to undo what just happened to it. Let's start with the part that would kill you fastest: gravity. On a sphere, gravity points straight down no matter where you're standing, because you're always the same distance from the center of mass. On a flat disk, that's not true anymore. Gravity pulls toward the center of the disk's mass, which means the further you are from the middle, the more down starts to tilt sideways. Stand near the edge of this new flat Earth, and gravity wouldn't pull you toward the ground. It would pull you toward the center, like the whole planet was a giant, very unforgiving, lazy river. So if you were anywhere outside a relatively small zone near the middle, you wouldn't be walking. You'd be sliding. And you wouldn't be sliding alone. The oceans would feel that same sideways pull, and they'd do exactly what water always does: follow gravity. Every ocean, lake, and river on the disk would start draining toward the center, all at once. Coastal cities wouldn't flood from rising water. They'd lose their water entirely as it rushed inland, while the middle of the new continent disk turned into one churning global megasea hundreds of kilometers deep. If you live anywhere near a coast right now, congratulations. You just got beachfront property in the worst possible way. The beach left without you. But water isn't the only thing that flows downhill. Air does too. Earth's atmosphere currently wraps around the whole planet in a tidy, even shell, about 100 kilometers thick, held in place by gravity pulling evenly in every direction. Flatten the planet, and that gravity stops pulling evenly. The atmosphere, like the oceans, starts sliding toward the new center of mass. Out near the edges of the disk, the air would thin out fast. We're talking high-altitude mountain without the mountain kind of thin. The air pressure dropping low enough that breathing alone wouldn't deliver enough oxygen to keep you conscious. Meanwhile, the center of the disk would get thicker, heavier air, piling up like a traffic jam with nowhere to go. So somewhere in the first few hours of flat Earth, you've got drowning at the center and suffocating at the edges. Pick your disaster. Now let's talk about the sun, because this is where things get weird in a way nobody saw coming. A sphere spinning on a tilted axis is what gives us day, night, and seasons. Different parts of a round Earth angle toward the sun as it spins. A flat disk doesn't behave the same way. If the new flat Earth kept spinning the same way the old one did, sunlight would now sweep across the disk edge on for huge stretches of the day, hitting the surface at a brutal, glancing angle almost everywhere except a thin ring near where the sun is directly overhead. That means most of the disk would spend most of its time in a kind of permanent, dim half-light. Not quite day, not quite night, just bad lighting all the time. And if the disk somehow stopped spinning the way old Earth did, which, given that all the mass just got violently rearranged, is honestly the more likely outcome, one side could end up facing the sun forever, while the other side froze in permanent darkness. Half the planet cooking under nonstop daylight, the other half locked in an endless Arctic night. Somewhere in between, a thin habitable strip, sometimes called a terminator zone, would become the only real estate worth fighting over. And you'd better believe people would fight over it. So far, this flat Earth is sliding, drowning, freezing, and roasting all at the same time. It's giving the ice wall theory a real run for its money. Speaking of which, we'll get to that old flat Earth favorite, the Antarctic ice wall, in just a minute, because this new disk is about to grow one whether anyone believes in it or not. Here's the thing about that center of the disk megasea we mentioned earlier. With all that water pooling in the middle and the air pressure dropping toward the rim, The edges of the disk would become bone-dry, frigid, and almost airless. Basically a permanent frozen wasteland ringing the entire planet. Not because some ancient government built a wall to hide the truth, but because physics just built one for free, made of ice, kilometers thick, exactly where the old flat Earth maps always drew it. The universe, it turns out, has a sense of humor. But none of this, the sliding gravity, the megasea, the ice ring, the eternal half-daylight, would last very long. And that's the real twist nobody saw coming. A flat disk made of solid rock in liquid ocean is not a stable shape for something with this much mass. Gravity doesn't care about pancakes. Every part of the disk is still pulling in every other part, and that pull doesn't stop just because the shape changed. Within hours, gravity would start dragging the disk's edges back down and its center up, exactly the way a flattened ball of dough collapses back toward round the second you let go of it. Scientists call this hydrostatic equilibrium. It's the same reason every large moon, planet, and star in the universe ends up roughly spherical, no matter what shape it starts as. Enough mass, enough gravity, and round isn't a choice. It's the only physically stable option on the table. So somewhere between catastrophic flood and catastrophic ice age, Earth would do the only thing gravity ever really lets a planet do. It would round itself back out. Slowly, violently, but surely, the oceans would resettle, the atmosphere would respread evenly, the ice ring would melt, and within a relatively short stretch of geological time, you'd be left with Earth, the exact globe you started with, just with a slightly higher death toll and a much better understanding of why nature never builds flat planets in the first place. Turns out the reason no planet anywhere in the universe is flat isn't a cover-up. It's gravity doing the one thing it's never, ever willing to compromise on.